All right. Hello, I'm Jess with Her Mood Mentor, where I work with people one-on-one who are experiencing PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I help them find a way forward with integrative menstrual health protocols, coaching, and body literacy education. Today, I'm meeting with one of my beautiful clients, Aarti, and she is here to share her story. So welcome, Aarti. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and share um, the little things as well as the major shifts that have happened while I've been working with you.
Wonderful. Well, let's get into it a little bit. Where were you before we started working together? Can you talk a little bit about what your cycle experience looked like?
Yeah, sure. I feel like the day you emailed me and like the day we connected was um, I cried out of joy because just the week before in therapy, I was crying to my therapist. I never cry in therapy. I'm usually like strong. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going through a lot, but it's okay. But that week, I cried because I was frustrated with the lack of awareness around PMDD, and nobody understood what I was going through. My psychiatrist diagnosed me correctly after so many months of me suffering without knowing what was going on. My gynecologists had an inkling about what it was, but they couldn't really give me the information I was seeking. I was looking for nutritionists who understand PMDD in an Indian context, but I couldn't really find somebody who really got it. They would say things like, yeah, you know what, we know what PMDD is, but I'm sorry, we can't help you with a specific diet. And then I was like, okay, the only thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to suffer. And because I know everything about menstruation, I've studied it, I'm in tune with my cycle, I've been charting it, but there's clearly nothing else left. There is no hope. And that's when I started following a lot of pages on Instagram and I connected with you. And um, that was that point, like I had totally given up hope just before I met you. I had extreme symptoms. I would be in bed 15 days a month and I couldn't function. I had to pause my work. I had to be taken care of. I couldn't get out of bed. So I had to be literally taken care of like a little child. I was unable to do my work. My relationships had taken a toll. And on the other 15 days, I was just confused like, what just happened? Who am I now? And that was really something that I was hyper functioning along with this condition. So I was trying my best to get out of it, and the amount of effort I put into it also made me feel even more exhausted and helpless. Yeah, I think those were some of the things I was experiencing before we started working together.
Mm. Yeah, so you were just kind of feeling like you were at a dead end. What symptoms were the most challenging for you during that time?
Mm, so many. But I feel like what really hit me the most was lower belly pain and an inflammation. I almost felt like I was pregnant, and my belly would really swell up, and it would hurt me. And when I went to get checked, I went to about four gynecologists, and they did all kinds of sonographies and internal tests, and they would tell me I have pelvic inflammation and infection, and I was on antibiotics, and it was just so hard because nothing helped. Painkillers didn't help, and I was also shamed for not having good hygiene. So there was so much emotional um, pain that I was carrying along with the physical symptoms. And then my mood swings were also really hard to handle. I'm usually somebody who's really, my mood is usually very stable in general up until now. But when PMDD hit, one minute I'm crying, the next minute I'm laughing. I had a lot of brain fog, and my work is to interact with people. I'm usually always around people. I'm very social, so it was really hard for me to have extreme mood swings, have extreme sound and light sensitivity. So I think these were my three main symptoms which caused me to really cocoon and take that time off. So yeah.
It really, it really sounds like you were completely debilitated. I mean, these symptoms are very serious. You're saying you were experiencing them for up to 15 days out of the month. I mean, can you talk a little bit? I know you went to many providers and you were actively seeking help, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that looked like, what you tried, and how, we're going to get into how coaching impacted your symptoms as well, but I just kind of want to get a picture of what was happening with the things you were trying before we started working together.
Right. So I kind of charted it out. I was tracking all my symptoms using the Me versus PMDD app. This was, of course, like somewhere mid year last year, like around July. But before that, before my diagnosis, I tried to go to two or three gynecologists. A lot of what they told me is that I'm at an age when I would have usually given birth, and the hormones in my body are causing some amounts of shifts, and it's okay for me to experience this. So they were trying to explain it to me, and it did help me understand like why my body may be going through this, but it didn't feel enough. Um, and physically also, I was trying to eat different things, trying to see. There were days when I didn't eat anything. There were days when I only ate fruit, and I was just going crazy. I tried all kinds of diets and coconut water cleanses, and yeah, I had no idea what to do physically. I think the main space where I kind of took charge was through energy healing, massage work, and through spiritual practices, connecting more deeply to my womb, connecting to the earth, and I found a lot of relief here. I also revisited a lot of the trauma work I had done with my therapist, and really leaned on therapy and somatic work, not just CBT, but also somatic therapy and energetic healing and women's work. So I found a lot of community support there. Yeah, that really helped. I also moved out of home because I realized that I needed my space. So if when I had my own space, it really allowed me to be in a debilitated state and not really have to justify why I'm going through what I'm going through. Um, yeah, that also helped. Living with friends who were really supportive and understanding did a lot of good to me. Um, yeah, so these are some of the things I was exploring. I tried Ayurveda as well for a short period, and again, because the diagnosis hadn't come in by then, I just took like 10 pills for no reason. So, yeah, I took a lot of pills. I took antibiotics, I took Ayurveda, I took bachelor remedies, homeopathy, um, yeah, everything.
Wow, wow. Yeah, so you were throwing a lot of tools at this and actively approaching it before we started working together. So then can you just talk a little bit about how, we started working together? What happened then? What did you notice changed?
I feel like when we started working together, and you asked me to write down and fill up that form, the intake form, um, for the first time, I kind of articulated the fact that my purpose or my vision for myself is no longer to serve and heal the world. My work in um, serving other people and helping other people therapeutically or through healing was my driving force. But when I got so sick, I realized that my focus is me. And it's okay for me to care for myself, take that time off, and not feel guilty about it. And the intake form really gently made me come back to myself. It allowed me to feel like, okay, look, this problem might seem really big, but what you need to focus on is just these small little things, these 7 areas of my life. And um, when we started charting it and realizing where I am on all those levels, it didn't feel like my entire life is ruined. I was able to see that, okay, this is where I'm going through distress, and this is where I'm going through distress. And when you told me that by working on one aspect, all of them kind of get supported, I was like, okay, I'm going to believe you, but I don't know how it's going to happen. And then I realized that nutrition was the main issue that I had, because I didn't know what I was doing that was causing my symptoms to get so bad overnight after I ovulate. So, yeah. And it also helped me kind of take the cyclical menstrual wisdom that I already knew and make it PMDD specific. So I was able to kind of lean on my own information and my own body wisdom with a little more, like with like a searchlight. And then it didn't feel so scary. Then I was like, okay, you know what? I don't have to keep this stuff aside. I just need to understand what's changing in my body. What are the biological changes that I now need to account for? So the information, I think, was really something that allowed me to feel empowered and realized that it's actually possible to be symptom free. I had realized that I thought that I'm going to have to deal with these symptoms for the rest of my life. So then I was like, okay, so people have moved beyond this. It's not going to last forever. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. And at one point you said, I thought I was going to be dealing with this until I was dead. And that was maybe in our second session. So you had already at that point taken so much more, targeted action in the nutrition core area, which was the area that we were working on. Can you talk a little bit about what that looked like for your symptoms? What changes did you notice in your body and in your PMDD symptom experience?
um, Honestly, Jess, I'm going to say this, like a lot of it was psychological. I think my lack of information was causing me to believe that I don't have control and that I cannot be symptom free. So even though not too much changed in the way I was eating, yes, it did change significantly, but not like it was not a 360 like full on complete shift. But because I knew that I would be fine if I did certain things, like I was able to calm down, and then automatically my mood swings reduced because um, my nutrition and my mood swings were connected. I'd cry a lot when I would have cravings and eat things that were not good for me and cry. So it was like I was having a breakdown while eating, processed noodles. So it was even worse than, than what it could have been. But I think we focused on what's in my control. So what am I eating? What helps my body not, move towards inflammation? What helps my body stay with my cyclical seasonal rhythm in my body? And then I was like, cool, these things are in my fridge. I just need to wake up in the morning and make something for myself immediately, not let my tummy get irritated by not eating, because I would stay in bed for a long time once I wake up, and that would kind of cause all the issues. So once I started eating breakfast again, such a small step, I'd usually have brunch, but starting to have breakfast again. I included a protein shake, for days that I couldn't eat in the morning. So small things, yeah, and just eating more complex carbs, which were already in my fridge. It's just making those connections and realizing if I do this, I won't have symptoms. I'll be fine. So then, like that connection was made in my head, and I was like, oh, don't have to suffer. Don't have to do this until I'm dead.
Yeah, and you did experience, we're never looking to cure our symptoms. We're looking to find a way forward that we can manage and improve our quality of life with this disorder. But you have experienced symptom-free cycles during our work together. And after, can you talk a little bit about the impact that that has had on your life and what that looks like in real time?
Well, this is the first month where I've started re-offering my work and sharing more on Instagram and meeting my friends without thinking, oh my god, what part of the month is it? It feels like I'm slowly coming back to having more agency and power around how I spend my time and energy. And I had my first symptom free month, I think in December to Jan and also Jan to Feb. And before that, I did have a lot of reduced symptoms, like maybe in September when I did a lot of energy healing and a lot of body work. For a month, I was a bit okay, but it came back with a vengeance. So this time it's been consistent, like for the last 3 months, this entire year, I've had very less symptoms. maybe for a day or two, when I'm doing too many things or I'm stressed, my belly pain increases, or um, maybe I'm just a bit, um, moody, or I have a little bit of brain fog, or I cry and I need support. But I'm able to not spiral. I think that's the superpower that I have accessed. I mean, I do need a lot of support externally still, and I need a lot of rest in between my chores or through the day, or there are days when I don't do anything, and there are still times when I cancel appointments that I had booked, or tell my clients, hey, I can't see you today. Or I do still do that, but I don't judge myself and panic anymore. So my symptoms don't get worse. Like, I'm able to stay with the discomfort and realize that this does not mean that I am going to deal with this for the rest of my life. So I stop giving myself that death sentence, and then it becomes okay.
Yeah, so you went from 15 days being completely debilitated to going back to work to improving your relationships. And that's something we monitor throughout the program, whether, we're doing the educational component or the one-to-one coaching. We're monitoring the 7 core areas and what's happening throughout as we're taking action. And you also saw significant improvement just in the data collection that we were doing in the other core areas, even though we were only working on nutrition. And I'm super thrilled to hear that, as it's been months since we've worked together. I mean, at least 3 months, maybe more. And I'm glad to hear that you've taken this and you've moved forward, and you're still seeing benefits in your relationship, in your professional life, and in your family relationships. I mean, the work that you have done is reverberating, and you're not in bed 15 days out of the month. That's really huge. So how does that feel to have, gone from point A, where you were, to where you are now? And how do you think that impacts your vision of the future and what's possible for you?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Well, it's just made me realize that my life is really valuable. My time is really valuable. I'm really valuable. And all that I do, all that I say, all the time that I spend, I'm just learning to be more conscious of it. And then I realized that whatever made me feel that I would be dealing with this for the rest of my life was just my fear of all these symptoms, and just the helplessness that came along with having a condition that was so serious. And it's real, okay? Like, if you had told me that I could be symptom free like July last year, I wouldn't believe you. But yeah, like, now I know that, the lifestyles that we live and the world that we live in isn't necessarily very favorable for us to thrive. And there are certain things that we need to do to create that safe space for ourselves to recover and to have multiple systems, right? And like, you also encourage us to have different practitioners, a lot of different practices, a lot of food items that we could have. So creating that entire array of all kinds of resources, it really makes me feel like, what, it can get really bad, and I know that I'll be fine because I have these resources to rely on, I have these people to rely on, I have myself to rely on, because now I have had to, like, make that shift towards really putting myself in the center. So any kind of external chaos, or any kind of body related unpredictable instability can only derail me so much. And even if my work gets intense, like, I know I can keep that aside and say my health comes first, and I'm going to be first taking care of this. And it really put me in this space of sovereignty and agency over everything. And obviously, in a way that is humble and also makes space for the fact that it's challenging. So yeah, I know that moving ahead, and even as we speak, a lot of the things that I have been visioning, dreaming, and wanting to manifest are unfolding right before my eyes. when it comes to my personal life or my work or my health, and everything's coming back to normal and the way things were before. I got PMDD, that was about a little over a year ago. So I know that it's not going to be easy, let's say, because yeah, my symptoms may show up again, and I will have to take maybe a month off or whatever, but it's not going to be going back to that helpless state where I'm going to believe that I'm destined to suffer. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the one hand, you are moving into this new person where things are available to you that didn't seem available before. But on the other hand, you have this awareness where even if things got as bad as they were before, they're never going to be that bad because I now have a whole toolbox of skills and resources to manage. So it doesn't matter how bad my symptoms get, I have a plan forward. So it can't ever feel as helpless, like you put it. That's such a beautiful story, Aarti. I'm so happy that you came on today to share your story with people. Is there anything else that you want to share before we go? Anything you would want to tell your younger self or tell listeners who might be feeling hopeless with their PMDD experience currently?
Yeah, I feel like in the process of healing and coming out of this space of helplessness and pain and fear and confusion, it has been painful and it has been challenging, and it has also been beautiful because it really brought me back to myself. It made me face vulnerable parts of me, made me realize that just because those parts exist, I'm not broken. And it also made me come back into my own power and realize that there is so much more than the medical system can offer, and those parts and those systems allow me to create and be in connection to a more holistic system that empowers me. And I'm never going to listen to anybody else who tells me that I'm going to have to deal with a chronic illness for the rest of my life in the way that I'm going to suffer. I feel like there's so many beautiful modalities that can allow us to take charge of our healing and do it with joy, do it in community. And yeah, I just wish that more and more people had access to these resources so that they don't have to suffer on their own. And I'm really grateful for all the reels you make, for all your articles, and for so much effort that you put into really building this community and sharing your story vulnerably and really allowing us to remember that this is not a permanent situation that we have to kind of accept. It's
That's so
important for people
beautiful.
to know.
That's so beautiful, Aarti. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
All right.